Hello and welcome to the EduTalk series hosted by Biotone EduPartner Program, and massage industry experts. With the growing interest and popularity of the EduTalk series, Biotone continues to support virtual learning and building massage community by connecting you with industry experts who share their knowledge and expertise on topics not only for class discussion, but career success. Tonight's expert is Stephanie Lynn Hall, a massage therapist, dietitian, nutritionist, yoga and Pilates instructor, and owner-educator of Fox Valley School of Massage, Reflexology, and Feng Shui. She is trained in both Eastern and Western healthcare modalities and has trained thousands of students. Let's listen and learn as Stephanie Lynn explains how Feng Shui can improve sleep health, wellness, and productivity. She'll explore the importance of sleep, rest, and how Feng Shui aids the affects the daily life, wellness, well-being, and happiness. She'll share simple Feng Shui cures to produce amazing results with easy tips to share with clients and friends. And thank you again for joining us. Please be sure sound is off and video is off. And Stephanie Lynn, thank you so much for meeting the challenges of finding a library to host your Zoom. And I know we have a lot to cover. Everyone, we did send out a worksheet via email earlier today, and hopefully you have that to reference during the talk. And with that, Stephanie, I turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you.
All
right, I will go ahead and share my screen. Beautiful. Okay. Oops. Okay, so I think everything is working. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. As Donnell said, we are going to talk about Feng Shui and sleep for health, wellness, and productivity. I am just trying to shrink this one thing. Here we go. Good. Okay. So thank you, Donnell and Biotone. I really want to thank you for this opportunity. I'm so grateful to be here with everybody today. And I really hope that you find everything we're going to talk about interesting. So thank you for that wonderful introduction, Donnell. I think you pretty much covered everything. I have spent my life studying health, wellness, nutrition, and I'm so grateful for all of these opportunities to be able to share this information. As Donnell said, I'm an owner-educator at Fox Valley School of Massage. We're in Wisconsin. We are a state-approved school, and I just like to share that at the beginning because there's so much information out there, and I find it hard to know sometimes if I'm getting information from a credible source. So we just like to share that we are a state-approved school, so you know you're getting really good information. And before we delve in, just to remind everybody that this presentation is for educational and informational purposes only, so it shouldn't be construed as medical advice. You know, with that, you certainly can take a lot of the tips and information we're going to share today and see how they work for you in your life. So here's what I'm really excited to talk about with you today. We're going to talk about what is Feng Shui. I think a lot of us maybe have heard the words before, but we may not know what it is. We're going to talk about clutter and then really why we need to have rest so that we can rejuvenate and be productive. And then some of the things that might get in the way of us getting really good rest and waking up energized and enthusiastic for the day. So we're going to talk about artwork and where that belongs in our space and how our electronic devices affect our health. We're going to talk about the Feng Shui Bagua. You can see it on the screen already. It's in that right-hand side, that second picture from the bottom. And we're going to talk about tips that you can take from this presentation and get them into your life if you so choose. So let's talk about Feng Shui. The words Feng Shui, and those are the symbols there on the screen, that means wind and water. and it is pronounced Feng Shui. And what the whole goal of Feng Shui is to think about and to incorporate the mindful placement of what you have around you to enhance harmony with the environment and nature. So sometimes people are like, are you sure Feng Shui? This sounds a little silly. So when we say it's the art and science of mindfully placing objects around you, the very first example I like to use is laundry baskets. We all have to do laundry and we have to put those laundry baskets somewhere. And sometimes we don't fold our laundry right away. We might set that laundry basket down. And say you set that laundry basket down in the doorway to your bedroom, you forget, you go to the kitchen, you make dinner, you go back to your bedroom. Hopefully you don't hurt yourself, but you trip over your laundry basket. Oh, that stupid laundry basket. That's a really good example of bad Feng Shui, right? Had we put the laundry basket on our bed or put everything away, we wouldn't have had that congestion. So I just like to use that because it makes it, I find when I'm teaching my Feng Shui courses, more applicable for people and that they feel like they can connect with it. So what we do is we assess life areas and then we offer what's referred to in Feng Shui as cures or solutions to improve the environment. So by applying the concepts of Feng Shui, we hopefully have better balance in our lives. So the whole goal is to live harmoniously with nature. So when we talk about Feng Shui and a lot of these things that are covered in the EduTalk series, they have a really long history. Feng Shui has been around at least 7,000 years old, and it started with the agrarian cultures. And the way that it started is that it meant that if we planted our crops in the proper placement, then we would have production of food, right? And food equates to prosperity. So the proper placement of crops meant that we would have mountains behind us and water in front of us. So we don't have to live with mountains and water, as we're going to see when we talk about positioning furniture, but we still want to keep that like safety behind us. Like there's a solid wall behind me. That's my mountain, if you will. And then the water, my camera, my screen as I'm talking to you, as opposed to maybe if it was flipped around and I didn't have that safety behind me. So again, that proper placement of crops equated to food, food equated to prosperity, wealth, and happiness. So when we talk about setting things up, the Feng Shui principles, it goes with any belief system and it goes with any decorating style. So we see often that a lot of interior designers and interior decorators will often also study Feng Shui as well as a lot of health and wellness people. So it's not uncommon for massage therapists and anybody in the healthcare field to look at these principles when trying to help assist our clients to better health and wellness. So it's not a cookie cutter system. Once we learn Feng Shui, all of our homes aren't going to look the same because we're still going to all be drawn to our own individual design principles or the tendencies, country, retro, contemporary, modern. But what you're going to see is that we've got these principles that are just going to give us guidance. So I find it really comforting that I can have these ideas, these principles to guide me in knowing where to put my stuff, and also to get me to pay attention to my stuff to see if I actually need it or if perhaps I can let it go. So Feng Shui then also explains why we would put things in the places that we put them so that we can have that ability to rest, to relax, and to rejuvenate. So often as we get started, people will say, well, Stephanie Lynn, how do I know if I need Feng Shui? And with anything, right, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So just like in body work and any healthcare field, we always have an intake form or an initial assessment. So with Feng Shui, the way that that assessment works is that we ask some questions. Are you happy in the life areas addressed by Feng Shui? So what are these areas? The areas that I would like you just to maybe ask yourself right now, and on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, would you like any of these areas enhanced? Do you wish you had more abundance and wealth? And it doesn't have to be actual money, but just wealth of how you feel. Do you wish that your fame and reputation, like with where you work, not trying to be a famous celebrity, though if that's your goal, that's okay. But when we talk about it from a Feng Shui perspective, are you happy with how you feel like people view you? So your fame and reputation. How are your one-on-one relationships, your closest friends, your partners? How is it going within your family? That would be an area. Health, creativity, and children. If you have children, if you don't have children, you want them. Creativity and children are tied together, but you can also look at creativity and not children as literal, but the birth of a new project. Are you happy with your current skill set and your knowledge? Are you happy with your career? And then lastly, helpful people and travel go together. So on a sheet of paper, that's what we would say. What is that again on 1 to 10? So we don't want to feel like we need to fix all of these areas. Hopefully we pick 1 or 2, and hopefully some are, kind of in the middle of the road, and some things you feel really good about. So we don't want to overhaul our whole house, our whole office as we learn these things, but we just want to be really mindful about which of these areas would we maybe like to see change in. So sometimes people then they go, okay, I get the assessment part of it, but I'm still a little skeptical. Fantastic. In the world of life and learning, it's almost always better to be skeptical of things than maybe overly welcoming, because if you've ever been skeptical of something yourself, but then realize that it was a really good thing, then usually we're the best enthusiasts. So being skeptical, being a little cautious, I think is a good thing, because then if you give 1 or 2 tips that we talk about today a try and you notice a change, you're going to be really excited and on board with it. So it's okay to be skeptical. What I would say is listen, take it in, try a couple of things, and if you see changes, fabulous. And so as we go through the tips and tricks, often then what I'll say is, what do you have to lose, right? If nothing changes, you're where you are now. But if you implement some of the things we talk about today, what do you have to gain? Increased feelings of prosperity, increased health, increased creativity, increased peacefulness in your life. So I'm so excited to hear what your thoughts are as we go through the presentation in the chat. And if you reach out to me, tomorrow, in a week, in a month from now, if you've tried these things and you've seen changes. So one thing that we like to really point out in any of the topics that I teach is the importance of journaling. And you can journal in whatever style works for you, but here's why I think journaling is so important. Life moves fast. We go from one thing to the next, and we don't often pause and realize what it is that we just did. So we don't even necessarily notice the change. And often, like if I'm teaching a massage class, I'll say the same thing to our students. When you're done getting a massage, or when you're done giving a massage, stop and reflect on how you feel and maybe even jot it down. Because if after you leave and the day gets crazy, we kind of forget about how amazing we felt when we were relaxed. When we do Feng Shui, if we make a couple changes and things are better, we might even forget that we did those changes to realize that it worked. So that can be on paper, it can be on your phone, it can be however it works for you. But I would encourage you in your life to just think about jotting things down, journaling in a capacity that works for you. I mean, I was recently at a presentation and, it was not even related to health and wellness. It was just about nature, and they were encouraging everybody to journal. I think these pauses are really important, and it helps you to see if the changes worked, right? So we want to give journaling a chance. It's a key component so we can realize when changes are happening. So with the basic premises of Feng Shui, the things that are closest to us affect us the most. And this ties directly into the Gandhi quote, right? Our thoughts are directly tied into how we feel. How we go about our day and treat others directly impacts our health and happiness. So the people closest to us affect us the most. So our clients, our coworkers, if we're watching the news, listening to podcasts, what we surround ourselves really does affect our energy. But then also, so does the stuff. So like you can see that I'm in this conference room. I last minute was not able to do this from my home. So again, I appreciate your understanding my surroundings. But when I entered this conference room, there were chairs everywhere. There was stuff all over the table, right? And so I walked into this room, and the first thing I did is I thought to myself, I have to Feng Shui this room, right? So I positioned myself so I can sit with the wall to my back. I can see the door where people are coming in. I was able to move the chairs, because otherwise what would have happened is, as you were watching me, all this stuff around me would have been distracting to you, and it would have felt really cluttered. And so that's why it's so important for us to think not only about how people affect us, but our stuff. So what is our furniture? What's the color of our walls? You know, where is it that we live? So to really sum this all up, as I previously said, this Gandhi quote, if you're not familiar with this, I have this posted everywhere. It's in every presentation I give because it's such a good reminder for me, and it's all been scientifically proven. So this particular Gandhi quote is to watch our thoughts, because what we think become our words. Watch our words, because what we say ends up being what we do. Watch our actions, because our actions become our habits. Our habits become our character then becomes our destiny. And again, the reason I love this quote so much is because this has all been proven, right? So our thoughts, they are energy. Our thoughts become, right, what we're feeling. The book, Molecules of Emotion, is an excellent book because it talks us all the way through it. Our physiology changes depending upon what we're thinking, right? Our feelings become our words, our daily vocabulary. And so when we think about our feelings and our vocabulary, we need to have all of the feelings. We need to be aware of them. So our words become our actions and our patterns of movement, right? So if I'm not feeling good, I'm kind of sunken down. And if I feel better, we notice this after a massage, we stand taller, we radiate good energy, right? Our chakras illuminate beautiful colors. So it's really important to think about what we're speaking and how that affects our body and our musculoskeletal patterns, especially if you have people in chronic pain. Our actions become our habits, right? So we know the plasticity of the brain, right? So things become easier and easier. And if we're doing things that are helping us to feel better, they become easier. And if we're setting up barriers, we set up barriers easier. So this happens without potentially conscious thought. So we want to go back to that. Habits become our characteristics, what other people identify us with, what they stereotype us with. And we know we shouldn't do that, but our brains are somewhat programmed to do these weird things. So, you know, another great book, The Master and His Emissary, is an excellent book for talking about how the brain functions, the asymmetry within our brain. And so we learn then that our character becomes our destiny. So it all goes back to our thoughts and our stuff, right? So people, thoughts, stuff. What can we then do in our lives? I love this picture as we shift, you know, kind of that definition of Feng Shui, the wind and water, how we move our stuff around us. When I did my Feng Shui certification, gosh, back in 2008, I had this amazing experience where we all shared pictures of our homes and our space. And I was so in awe of the participant that shared that this was the picture of her office. Because for me, I would have struggled to share this, to have that kind of vulnerability. And she gave us permission for us to share this because we all probably have little areas in our homes, in our workspace that look like this. And some of us have whole rooms. And what we don't want to do as we learn these things is become self-critical and self-judgmental. It is so important when we're working with Feng Shui, when we're working with clutter, when we're working with ourselves, to have a lot of grace and compassion. So clutter in our space can be physical, intellectual, or mental. And clutter can be really challenging to remove, but it's so well worth it. And I also want to stress that when we're working with our clutter, work with it in 10-minute increments, work with it in 15 minutes, but try not to make yourself say, I am going to take care of this whole room today, because this would be really overwhelming. Instead, if I dedicate 10 minutes a day, you know, in a week, you've got over an hour and you'll be amazed at the progress you'll make. So I just want to offer you two things to maybe consider with clutter. One, our closets. A lot of us have way more in our closets than we need. So a nice way to see what you're wearing would be to hang all of your hangers in the opposite direction. Then as you wear your clothes, you flip the hangers over and you give yourself a timeline. I live in an area of the country where I have all 4 seasons, so I give myself a year. Some people might live where you have the same season, and so maybe you give yourself 4 months. Then the other part of this, now I wore what I wore, I'm hanging things up. The hangers that I didn't reverse, then you can kind of look at and say, who can I share these with? I think a lot of times people have trouble donating things because we feel like we're letting go of things. If we, again, can switch that thought process to what can I share with others, then it's easier. And it seems kind of interesting to think like, well, how does cleaning my closet help me sleep better? When we're worried about what we're wearing the next day, when we are opening up our closets and there's all that stuff there, it can kind of drain our energy reserves. So another method is the 5-bin method. This method is important because it helps us to stick in the room that we're trying to work in. So often we think, I'm going to start in my office, but I find something that goes in the kitchen, something that goes in the bathroom, something that goes in the living room, something that goes in the garage, and I've done all this moving around and I didn't make any progress in the office. So the 5 bins, you're going to label bin 1, I'm keeping. Bin 2, give away or share, whatever helps you to resonate with letting it go. Bin 3, it goes in another spot in the room that you're working in. Bin 4, it goes in the garbage. Bin 5, I'm not sure what to do with it. Again, in 10-minute segments, keeps you in the same room so that we don't get distracted and overwhelmed. So hopefully you'll give these a try, because we can always, the bins can be small if it's a small room, large if it's a large room, but we can always kind of go back through and see what's happening. And our intellectual clutter, right? So computer clutter, our phone clutter, tablet clutter. I would encourage you, get rid of the pictures you don't want or need. Get rid of the files that you don't want. Because here's what's really cool and how it relates back to us. When our devices are really full, they run slower. I really want you to sit with that for a second. When our devices are full, they run slower. When our space is full, physical space, and when our mental space is full, we run slower. So a lot of times the goal to the efficiency, the goal to being able to rest, the goal to slowing ourselves down is to eliminate those things. So thinking about what's looping through our minds and maybe putting it in a journal so we can let it go, right? Creating lists, because here's a really cool thing. In our whole world of mental health right now, one of the big recommendations that counselors will say to people is, in order to let things go out of your head, write them down. And then as you accomplish them, check it off. Because the super amazing thing is every time we check something off a list, we get a little endorphin boost. Every time we get an endorphin, serotonin release, we feel better. So instead of letting it loop in my brain and then me feeling not good, I can put it on the paper, cross it off, and feel a little better. Granted, some of those releases are short-lived, but if we're checking things off of our list, we can hopefully sustain that. So all of these things that we're talking about then, all of the people, all of our stuff ties into where we rest and rejuvenate, the importance of sleep, setting up our space, and using some of these guidelines. So some of us are body workers, some people are tuning in to listen. And so what I want us to think about is when we set up our massage rooms, we all set them up with the intention of it being calming, restful, and soothing. We as caregivers spend a lot of time making sure we're taking care of others. What I really want you to think about is setting up where you sleep and where you rest with the same intention, love, and care that you put into your health and wellness rooms, your massage room, your spa room, okay? Because our place where we sleep is the most important room of the house, because we know sleep is so important. We spend a third of our lives in the bedroom, hopefully, because we're sleeping that 7 to 9 hours a night. So when we start to then think about it, we really are in there, a third of our lives. So the most important room of the house, we want to make sure is set up for rest and repair, because we know sleep is important for us to heal. Sleep is important for healthy metabolism. Sleep deprivation leads to health problems. When I'm coaching and working with people, that's one of the first things I ask is sleep and rest. Because if we're not sleeping and resting, we usually don't eat great. When we're not eating great, we don't exercise. When we're not exercising, it's hard to sleep because we're not tired. When we're not sleeping, we usually have more pain. So it leads to this whole cycle. So it's so important that we really think about where we rest should be a safe, not distracted place. So getting rid of any obstacles that make sleeping and resting and just being centered a challenge. So ideally our bedrooms would be a small room, not a suite. Thinking back to caves, right? We would go into caves to sleep. Only one entrance, our back was to the wall so we could see who's coming in. So we want to feel safe and protected. So if you have a really large bedroom, that's okay. Because again, we said Feng Shui is not a cookie cutter, but we want that large expansive space, if that's what it is, to still be geared for rest and relaxation. Not to become a multifunctioning room that's storing all your stuff under your bed, that's got exercise equipment, that's got all this stuff that you don't know where to put in your house in your bedroom. And from a Feng Shui perspective, we want, because it's resting and rejuvenating, not to have dead or preserved flowers or ashes. We can have those things in our homes, but just not in the bedroom. We really want to decorate our bedrooms as your dream destination. So as we are thinking about the furniture, so here's some of our tips and tricks to sleeping really good. We want the bed to be what's in the position called the command position. Okay, so the command position, again, if you see me, I am sitting, ideally the better spot would be at the end of the conference table because the wall would be 100% there, but even here, I'm sitting in this conference room with a wall behind me, that's the command position. Instead of me sitting where I'm looking in a wall where I can't see what's happening, you can see there's windows, that would be really distracting. I'm sitting so that there's walls, I can see my way out, I can see windows. This is the command position. So for a bed, the bed placed in a command position would be the headboard up against a wall, ideally not in line with doors or windows, so you can see who's entering and leaving. When the bed is in a good position, we feel safe and we can relax. When the bed is not in a good position, we don't go through all of the stages of sleep. We have a light sleep, we're awakened really easily. We want the bed to have access from both sides, especially if there's two people sharing it, and so that the bed is not pushed up against a wall. So as we look at this picture here, this is intended so that we can sleep. So again, we can see that there's a solid wall and there's a solid headboard. So yeah, there can be windows in the bedroom, but you can see that if you're sitting up in that bed, you are by the wall. There's nothing extra in this room. There's no exercise equipment. There's no piles of laundry. There's not a television. There's no devices. And as you look at this room, it has matching nightstands. And we're going to talk about matching nightstands for equality of whoever is sleeping in the bedroom. So this particular picture, this bedroom looks very nice, but right where you see the bed is the door. So in this picture, their bed is against a wall, but the door is right where the pillows are. That is not ideal. There's a mirror reflecting. In Feng Shui, we say keep the mirrors out of the bedroom, or if you have a mirror that has to be across from the bed, to cover it when you're sleeping. The way that this bedroom is set up here, it happened to be that the female was sleeping towards the door, so in the more yang position. The husband was more inside, the yin position. He slept okay here, but she was having a lot of headaches. So this particular couple called, they asked if I would do a Feng Shui consultation. We did, we went through the house, but this really stood out to me because this is what we did. We just flipped it around, okay? So now you can see the same window. The bed is now in a position where, yes, there is a window, but we shut the shades there to symbolically create a wall. As they're both sleeping, they are now looking out to the door. So the dresser is in line with the door. The mirror is taken down, and this is a safe way to sleep. Command position, I can see who's coming and going. No more mirror. So we didn't have to buy any new furniture. We didn't have to do anything, just move things around a little bit. So I hope that when you see here, the mirror, the window's in the same spot. Here, no mirror. There's the window. We have the shade shut. Simple solution. Okay. When we think about headboards, ideally the headboards would be solid to again give us a feeling of security so that things aren't slipping through, if you will. So solid headboards really help to support restful sleep, a feeling of security, nothing can come in from behind the bed position. The slits and the openings may create an unsettled feeling. So again, I want to go back to what I said earlier. If it's not broke, don't fix it. If you have an open headboard and you sleep great, you wake up refreshed and rejuvenated, then don't worry about it. But if this is your headboard style and you don't sleep great, a simple thing to do, hang a solid color comforter or sheet over the back of the headboard. So it's between you and the pillows, because then it's going to create that solidness. If you start to sleep better, fantastic. Then you know that that was a really good Feng Shui cure or Feng Shui tip for you to incorporate. But again, if it's not broke, you don't have to fix it. So here is another beautiful example of a bedroom. We again have windows, but we want that headboard against the solid wall. And the headboard doesn't have to be this high. It certainly can be. This takes into that, the accommodating different styles. But again, we see matching nightstands. So there's two, one on each side of the bed. The matching nightstands equals equality in the home. So if there are two people sharing a bed, you want to make sure that one person doesn't have a big tall nightstand and the other person doesn't even have a nightstand, right? Because then there is no place for them to put their belongings, which would symbolically mean there's no place for them to put their stuff. So when one nightstand is larger, but sort of relate to who's in charge. And I mean, I've seen this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. People are having little quarrels within their relationships. We make this recommendation, equal nightstands, share equal space in the closet, and it's amazing how things settle down. Now, sometimes people will say, well, what if I'm single and I live alone? You don't have to have two matching nightstands then. But if you're single and you're looking for somebody to enter your life, then it's recommended to put that second nightstand, don't fill it with your stuff, but maybe put in that nightstand things that you would find attractive in that person. So books that they might want to read, travel places, but it's important to keep space. If we set up our living space to not allow other people to come into our lives, they won't. And if we invite it energetically, then they can. So this takes us to artwork and pictures. And so often people will say, how does that work into how I feel in a wellness room, or how does that feel in my own bedroom? Well, look at the artwork that makes you feel relaxed. In our space where we sleep, we don't want to have pictures of people that aren't yourself and whoever you share that space with, because that equates to who is watching you. And then what's the message? So Feng Shui would offer and encourage you, if you have, family photos or photos of things that make you feel uncomfortable, maybe somebody gave you something, so you hung it on the wall, but you don't even really care for it. Keep it if you don't want to get rid of it, but put it in the hallway. Put it someplace that's not going to disturb your rest and relaxation. So I had a single female hire me to help her with the feng shui of her house. She at the time was wanting to have a maid, wanting to have more people in her life. And this was long before COVID, and she lived within my area. Most of my feng shui clients now are on Zoom. So if you're interested, let me know. I'd love to work with you. I was able to go into this person's house and it was filled with cats. I love cats. I don't have anything against cats, but there were huge cat statues, like mountain lion cats, lions, African cats, cheetah cats, you name it, pictures, statues, just everywhere you looked. I walked into the house and I felt scared. I felt intimidated. They were in every room. So we talked about keeping them, but how do we maybe not put them behind the couch, right? We talk about command position. If I'm going to sit down on the couch, but there's all these cat statues behind me, well, you can maybe imagine that would make you feel a little unsettled. So we moved things around. Some of them she did let go of, she shared with others. And today she is happily married, still has some of them, but really took to heart the importance of not scaring people away. So when we think about pictures and artwork, they can be in the living area where people gather. They can be in areas of the house where eyes watching us are not an interference, on your desk, the living room, the refrigerator. anywhere that you would not be embarrassed if people were watching you. I like that expression because it helps us to know, again, we can keep all of our stuff. We don't have to get rid of anything, but we want to be really mindful of where we're keeping it. And this leads us back to electronics. So again, in health and wellness rooms, especially in our body work rooms, we've probably all had that experience where somebody's got those devices on and it's so distracting. So we're seeing more and more wellness centers having people leave electronics in lockers, keeping them away, because again, when those devices are near us, they're sucking that energy. We all only have so much during the day. So I would encourage you to think about, if we don't have phones and electronics in our spa areas, in our massage rooms, in our health and wellness areas, because we want people to relax and rejuvenate there, let's do that for ourselves in our bedrooms. Okay, so little to no electronics in the bedroom. They're so distracting, and they invite others in our space, right? They tell other people, hey, I don't have any boundaries. Text me anytime and I'll respond. It's that noise in the background. Even if they're on silent, the light comes on, right? Even if they're flipped over, sometimes we can still see that. So I know sometimes for emergencies or things are going on, of course we have to have them, but maybe we don't have to have every device we own in there. Maybe we don't have to have as many electronics, because they also put out an electrical field, right? And then when things are running a magnetic field, and some people are really sensitive to these things. So if you have to have devices in your bedroom, again, it's okay, because we can, work with cures, but you definitely want to try not to have any cords under your bed. If you have to have a lamp plugged in, your alarm clock, because those fields for a lot of people interfere with their sleep. So maybe you have to run an extra cord so it's by the side of the bed, or you move it. This, again, I have seen time and time again, hundreds of people, we get cords out from under their bed, they sleep better, right? They're not getting as many headaches, they're not getting sick as often. So again, even if we're feeling a little skeptical about Feng Shui, and this is kind of the introduction into biobiology when we start to look at EMF fields, but if you move the cords and you sleep better, fantastic. So now we get to start looking at the Feng Shui Bagua. Okay, so this is our map. This is our guide. So again, I said in the beginning of the presentation, when people say, well, how do I know if I need Feng Shui? Here's what we're assessing. Here's how the Bagua works. So Ba means 8 and Gua means area. So each Gua then corresponds to a color, a life area, a part of the body, which I think is so fascinating if we're in health and wellness, or if we're just trying to improve our own health and wellness, diseases, and more. So this is where the layers of Feng Shui can keep on going. So like I said earlier, when I sit down with somebody and talk with them, or when I send out my intake form before their consultation, I'm asking again, what is going on with your wealth, with your abundance? What's going on with your fame? What's going on with the pink is the one-on-one relationships. So it's kind of a little tic-tac-toe board here. What's going on with family, the center, the yellow, your health, your creativity, and if you have children, or if you're trying to birth a new project, how about your skills and knowledge? How about career? How about friends and family? So what the Bagua does is it allows us to talk about these 9 areas. And then what we do is we lay the Bagua into the entrance of a room, of a house, of a property. So we can take this really micro, lay the Bagua on our desk. We can make it really macro, lay the Bagua on our property. To start with, I would encourage you just to do a room by room, because you could print this Bagua out with the handles that you have. You're going to hold it flat. And what's going to happen is the entrance to the room is always going to line up at the bottom of the Bagua, not the bottom center, because if you have an office where the door is right at the corner, it could line up with either knowledge, or it could line up with friends, or the door might be in the center of the room. But the Bagua lines up at the center, and then with the room that you're in, you kind of draw a little tic-tac-toe. So if you said to me, wow, I really wish that I could work on my family relationships, we would put the Bagua down, look at it, and then we would go to the middle left part of that room, and then we would check to see, is there clutter there? Is there stuff that you don't need? Is your garbage there? What is in that space, and what could we do to then clear it out a little bit? Now, if your family area is perfect, but you have clutter in the wealth area, and that's what you wanted to work on, that's what we would do. So it's really key to always line up that bagua at the bottom of the door, and then you can look through each thing. So you could literally, if you wanted to work on family, go to every room of your house and check that family area. And then usually for the house, what we would do is we would use the floor plans. So you would get your floor plans and you can sketch them out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but draw out your house, draw where your rooms are, put the tic-tac-toe, and then you can see what you need to do. The colors that go with each of the areas, you can then place. But it doesn't have to be that, oh, I paint purple, I paint red, I paint pink. You can get construction paper, you could get some fabric, and you just hide it, because the thought is that all of the colors have vibrations. So if we want to increase the vibration of an area of the room or an area of our house by placing those colors there, even though we can't see them, it's still there and it still has an impact. Then also within the bagua, we have these life areas that we talked about. So we're addressing those 9 areas. Again, if it's not broke, we're not going to fix it. So we can, from what we've talked about so far today, we can look at, are things in the command position? Do we have clutter? Is there stuff that we don't belong, that doesn't belong in our lives anymore? And how can we use the color? When we're also working with people, we can then, as we're doing a health history form, maybe you combine this with a wellness health history form. If somebody is constantly having some hip, thigh, lower back pain, and they're open to Feng Shui, you can kind of ask them like, hey, I know that we're doing this body work, and I know that you're exercising, I know you're managing stress, I know you're doing things to help with your hip, thigh, low back pain, but I wonder, in your home, in your rooms, when you enter your bedroom, when you look in the back left corner, what's there? Right? And just see, you don't need to know every detail, but if they're like, that's where, my litter box is, or that's where I store all my stuff I don't know what to do with, you could ask them, hey, what do you think about maybe moving that to a different corner for a while and just seeing, right? So we don't want to tell people it's going to be the cure, because we have to have everything working together. This is just one more tool in our toolbox to help people. So then not only do each of the tic-tac-toe squares, so they have the life area, they have the color, they have the body part, also diseases. So if this inspires you to want to learn more and start reading, you're just going to be like down this rabbit hole of all these amazing things that you can do with Feng Shui. But if you're getting a lot of colds, go check that corner, right? If you're having digestive issues, go to that back right corner of the room. So again, these are simple little things that we can do. A common example people will talk about, like if they're having constipation issues, check the hallways. So if we were going to be looking at the whole house, the hallways relate to our intestines. So if we clog up our hallways, we're clogging up our intestines. If we have long lines that run down our hallways, right? Sometimes we can have diarrhea, we're going too quickly. So symbolically, we want to be thinking about how does our house or our living space, and that could be if we're living in an RV, in a van, in an apartment, right? Wherever we are, the symbolism is the same. Keeping our windows clean, because the windows are the eyes of where we're living. So I hope that as we've been working through some of these things, that you understand the definition of Feng Shui, really just that mindful placement of things, and thinking about, like we talked about, just the command position, making sure that if you're sitting at your desk or you're lying down, that you have that wall behind you. The importance of journaling, and then tracking the changes, right? We don't know if we've made it to where we want to go if we don't write down what our goals are and then recheck them. Maybe consider looking at some clutter, looking at maybe your closets, looking at some of the areas of your house. We all have it, right? It comes back. It's like posture. We can't get to perfect posture and keep it forever, because gravity weighs us down. We can't get to perfect decluttering and it never come back, because people always give us things. We accumulate. So that's where that importance of keeping grace with yourself is there. So the importance of where you rest and rejuvenate, right? Setting up your bedroom for better rest and sleep. thinking about the importance of the command position, headboards and nightstand, looking at artwork, maybe having a different perspective of artwork now, thinking about our electronic devices. And if we're in this health and wellness field and we're, again, creating that space for others where they are free from their electronics for a while, to give yourself that same love, compassion, and grace, and maybe take some time away from your electronics. And again, I'm if there's emergencies and we have to have them, I of course understand that, but just maybe being aware. And then looking at the bagua, right? So now you can see this map of the life areas and the colors. And then on the bottom of the slide, you see the picture of crystals. Crystals are a really great feng shui cure. On our website, we have a whole free video presentation on how to work with crystals and mirrors. So at this point, I really am so grateful to Donnell and Biotone for this opportunity to be with you and to talk about feng shui and to think about body work and how it all ties together, because as we're all still experiencing life and stress and wanting to feel good, they all come together. So if you are excited about learning more about feng shui, I would love for you to join our newsletter, have you join us. When you join our newsletter sequence, you'll get some videos about reflexology, about kinesiology, taping, and feng shui. So our website, foxvalleyschoolofmassage.com, stephanielynhall.com takes you to the same place. We offer, like I said, there's lots of free videos on YouTube, on our website. We're working on developing more. And then we also have professional certification. So if you are wanting to become a feng shui consultant, I'd love to have you join our course. If you're interested in reflexology or kinesiology taping, I know that there's probably a lot of you that maybe were in the reflexology talk that I did a few months back, and maybe you missed that opportunity to save 30%. So with what we're offering today, the EduTalk 2023, that code will get you 30% off of any of our certifications when you pay in full by the end of April. So again, I'm just so grateful for everybody attending today. I would love it if you make any of these changes or you implement any of these tips. I would love for you to email me. The email, I apologize, isn't on this last slide, but if you go to our website, you can certainly get my email, and I would love to hear from you. So again, I just really want to thank Donnell and Biotone for this opportunity. I had a great time, and I hope you all learned a lot today.
Well, thank you so much. That was so interesting. And I can tell that the clutter that is not in the room you're in helps streamline your presentation. So it was wonderful. You know, something I thought about while you had one of the before and after of the bedroom up was a ceiling fan. How do ceiling fans play a part?
I love that you asked that, because ceiling fans are thought to be like arrows cutting through. So from a feng shui perspective, they're not great. But the cure for a ceiling fan is to hang a crystal. And so in that picture, if you looked real close, there's a crystal hanging in the second picture. So a lot of times with feng shui, the way that we cure things is to use crystals or red tape. So in red tape or red string. So anytime there's a ceiling fan, we can hang a crystal of color of your choice. And if you do have to have a window, so like you can see there's windows by me, I could put a little piece of red string or red tape across that, and that's thought to stop energy also. Much like a stop sign would stop things, so does red tape. So it is really fun and exciting to do those things. So you can really get on a crystal kick, so it's important to be careful, but you can buy really great crystals on any website and then just start hanging them and see how they feel for you. I love that question.
Oh, great. Well, I have another one, because what if you open your front door and your vision goes through the living room, through sliding glass doors, and out to the backyard that's on water?
Donnell, have you been in my house? Yes. That's our problem. Yes.
Don't you want to stop the energy from leaving the house?
Yes, you definitely want that. And so when the front door is in line, so like if this was the front door and here's windows, you're going to leave the front door the way that it is. Put something nice on the front door so that it's welcoming. But yes, red tape or red string above the windows or you can do it on the floor if nobody will see it. And then if it's sliding doors, you could hang a crystal, you could hang a sun catcher, you could hang something on the window that doesn't open to also help stop that energy and also protect birds from flying in. That's exactly what we have. And so as I started studying Feng Shui, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's an easy cure. So, and again, it doesn't have to be visible, but symbolically it does stop the energy. So I love that question. Yeah.
Oh, great.
And are there
Well,
any other questions?
Yeah, everyone in the background where I can't see you, there's still a few more minutes to ask Stephanie Lynn questions, or possibly ask questions about your treatment room or your personal space.
Or if they enjoyed something, to share maybe something that was particularly interesting, I would love to hear. And
Well,
sometimes, oh, go ahead.
What's that?
I was just gonna say, sometimes we have to take all of this in, look at the handouts, look at the beautiful bagua that you now have with the summary, and then maybe questions will come to you later and you can always email, because it was a lot.
It was. And, you know, I think just intuitively, a lot of us are aware of this on some level, because we know the satisfaction that when you clean something up or you declutter, I mean, you can breathe easier.
Yes.
So it's really, you know, nice to intuitively have that base and then have it confirmed or enhanced by understanding Feng Shui further. I do want to mention to the audience that please watch your in basket for a follow-up email tomorrow with Stephanie Lynn's recording and a link to the recording. And also I will reattach the handouts. And please check your spam folder if you do not find my email in the in basket. I'd also like to mention that coming up in May, and where is this year going? We have Fred Stallman on May 9th, and he'll present how craniosacral therapy benefits the PTSD client. And then May 23rd, we have Susan Salvo. She'll present on pregnancy massage through each trimester. And going into June 6th, we have Ruth Werner, and she'll present on massage therapy and skin cancer, a closer look. So we've got some great EduTalks lined up. We had a great EduTalk tonight. Please visit the EduTalk archive library on biotone.com under the EduTalk tab. You can view Stephanie's Reflexology EduTalk she did earlier this year. And if you need handouts, just email, we'll get you the handouts. So I don't see any other questions that have come in. Stephanie Lynn, thank you so much for making this happen and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
I look forward to keeping in touch. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Hope to see you again, and be safe. Take care. Bye.